Hi everyone, I'm Katie, an infant toddler Montessori teacher and registered early childhood educator. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to prepare a Montessori art space at home in only 5 steps. Now before we get started, if you think that you don't have the space at home for an art area, don't worry. When I was training to become a Montessori teacher, I was surprised by the simplicity of the art space in a Montessori classroom. As with most things in Montessori, less is actually more. All right, so step 1 to creating an art space at home is location is important. The location of your child's art space should be somewhere where you can have peace of mind. So this means you want to make sure that it's in an area of the home where the flooring can be easily cleaned. Do not do it on the carpet, especially for a younger child. You might be able to do it as they get a little bit older, but initially, as they're really into that exploration of art activities, I would do it on a non-carpeted floor. You may even want to have a floor covering, so you can put down something like this, like the bumpkin splat mat, or you could also just open up a big garbage bag and tape it to the floor in that area. That way you can just pull it up when it gets too messy, toss it out, and put down another one. You also want to make sure that there are cleaning tools close by. Some families choose to have the art area closer to a water source, so some families even have their art space in the kitchen or closer to the bathroom so that you can, be close to the water if you need it. Something that I liked to do in the classroom was to also just prepare sort of a cleaning station. So in the area where your child is going to do art, or when you see them sitting down to do an art activity, just preparing some damp cloths, having a mop available and things like that, so that if a mess occurs, they can just clean it up and develop those practical life skills. Step number 2 to creating a Montessori art space at home is to have a small table and chair. So this is a table and chair that your child is going to be able to use independently. The younger they are, you can definitely do art on the floor because we want them to be comfortable, but as they grow, it can be really helpful to add a little work table for them to do their art activities at. This is because tables create very clear boundaries for the children. They know that this is where I go to do my art. They try to keep all of the art materials on the table, and so on. You could also hang some art around their art area, around the table and chair for some inspiration. This would be a great place to also hang some of their own artwork. So step number 3 is a shelf. Now you can simply dedicate, if you have a shelf like this, for example, you can simply just dedicate one shelf to the art materials, or if you have the space, you could have a separate shelving unit just dedicated to the art materials. It's really whatever works for you. The reason why you hear Montessorians talk so much about child-sized shelves is because they create access, and giving a child independent access to the materials really helps them to sort of follow their own instincts. What is it that I want to do today? We have the materials all laid out on the shelf for them, and when they feel inspired, they can go over and retrieve those materials and express themselves creatively through art. Organizing art materials on a shelf can also help to pique a child's interest. So if they're not really showing an interest in art quite yet, you can just simply put out a couple of activities that you think they might be interested in and just kind of leave them there and see if the child is eventually showing an interest. And once they do, that's great, and they can start exploring art on their own. Hey, I just wanted to interrupt and say that we have a store, if you didn't already know. We sell a variety of Montessori materials, open-ended toys, and children's furniture, and it's quick and easy to order them online. We also have a store located on Danforth Avenue if you would prefer to shop in person. We'd love it if you stop by, but for now, let's get back to the video. Step number 4 is the materials. Ensure the materials that you are putting out are going to set your child up for success. Make sure that they are developmentally appropriate. So for example, if your young toddler is sitting down to work with crayons for the first time and you notice that the crayons are easily breaking, that can be really frustrating for the child. That can sometimes consume their attention. It can be really interesting to learn that you can break something. So the crayon might go from an art activity to a breaking the crayons in half activity. So these are important things to sort of look out for and anticipate. So what you could do in that scenario is introduce these palm grasp crayons. You can see there's just no way that a young child is going to be able to snap these in half. So you might want to start with these if you notice that the materials, the crayons that they're using are breaking. So some of the other materials that I would recommend in the toddler age group, these are the ones that were the most popular in my classroom, were dot markers. They're like bingo dabbers, but make sure you get ones that are child safe. The bingo dabbers from the dollar store are actually toxic, so you want to make sure you get the child safe ones. These paint sticks, they're called Chunkies by Uli. They were really popular. They're really cool. It's a less messy way of painting is with these paint sticks. Stickers were also really popular. They're really great for fine motor skills, painting with tempera paint, painting with watercolors, gluing activities, putting out scissors and cutting strips. So give all these different materials a try. I wouldn't put them all out at once, but you know your child pretty well. So whichever ones you think they're going to be interested in, put those out and see if it grabs their attention. Something that's important to remember when you are putting out these materials is that the younger the child, the less materials you want to put out. You can always add more as they develop more of an interest and as they grow. So if I were introducing these palm grasp crayons to the classroom at the beginning of the year, for example, when the children were closer to 18 months, I would just start with one color, one crayon. And then as I observed and as I could see that they were showing a bit more interest in the art shelf, I would put out 2 crayons. And then as they grew, I would put out 3 crayons and so on and so on. But start with one and then gradually add more. Another thing that you can do if you think that your child might be interested in more than one color is to designate a spot on the shelf for the crayons. This was something that we did in the classroom as well, was we just had a basket of crayons and the children could go up and choose as many crayons as they needed. They would put them on the tray and they would carry them to the table and do their activity. Lastly, my last point about the materials is that the materials should be in good shape. You want to provide them with high quality materials that are going to be able to withstand their exploration. So like I said earlier, preferably materials that aren't going to break, because when they break, that can lead to frustration for the child. So step 5 is to prepare the art activities for the child. So you'll notice when I showed you the palm grasp crayons that it's on a tray and you can see that there is a little piece of paper. So it's really helpful to the child if all of the materials that they need in order to do the activity can be found in one place. So here, this is very clear. The child can take this off of the shelf, take it to the table, and they are ready to get started immediately. So another thing that I would do in the classroom with the paper is that I would have an area on the shelf where there were a few pieces of paper so that the children could replenish the paper as needed. You can do the same thing at home, just show them where to find the paper and make sure that it's accessible for them to be able to get independently. So I would prepare a couple of different art activities to put on your child's art shelf initially and just see which ones they gravitate towards. If you do decide to put out a painting activity or a gluing activity, I would just put out a very, very small amount. In my experience, some toddlers really like to empty the contents of whatever it is that they're using. So by starting with less paint, it's going to make less of a mess. The paper gets really saturated if there's too much paint, etc., etc. So start with less and then you can always add more. The other thing that's really important with the art activities is that you want to show your child how to use all of the different materials. Check out another video of ours titled How to Make Art with Toddlers to learn how to demonstrate the different art activities to your child. The idea of less is more with art and creativity can be confusing, but it's simply where we begin. As your child grows, you're going to be able to add more art materials to their shelf. You're going to be able to add a stack of paper, lots of different colored paper for them to sort of combine and explore and create with. But in the toddler years, a simple setup, like I've talked about, really does work. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy preparing an art space at home for your child. I will link to some of my favorite art materials in the description below, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, it really helps our channel if you like and subscribe. This helps other parents to find our channel. And if you have a question, feel free to comment your question below and we'll answer it in a future video. Take care. Bye.